Tennessee Life is sponsored by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttonewknox.com. And by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. knoxvilleflowerpot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Coming up on Tennessee Life, from music to mobile homes, Tennessee entrepreneur Jim Clayton talks to us about the early years that built the foundation for a billion-dollar business.
The first time I ever made any money, my uncle gave me 25 cents for dragging cotton rows.
Animal experts at the University of Tennessee College of Veterinary Medicine answer the call to save Dudley. This Tennessee steer has quite a story and a new leg on life. And you'd probably never guess this small workshop in Decatur is the home to a big brand in the music world. More on why musicians want to play a Blackburn. Those stories next on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Tennessee Life. I'm Vicki Lawson. From humble beginnings during the Depression to billionaire entrepreneur, Jim Clayton is a Tennessee icon. He always takes life to the next level. He didn't just sell a car or mobile home. He figured out how to build a business. He talks with us about growing up in Finger, Tennessee as a sharecropper's son and the dreams and values that motivated him. Jim, thank you for being with us today. Tell me about your childhood and where you grew up.
I grew up down at Finger, spelled F-I-N-G-E-R, but we called it Finger. And that's near Henderson, Jackson, and West Tennessee. There was 2 stores, country stores, a pool hall, and a cotton gin. We were farmers and actually sharecroppers, and which meant my dad ran the farm and got half of the yield, and the landowner got half. We were never hungry, but if we didn't raise it, we would have been hungry. There were cracks in the floor. Wintertime was very, very cold. 1 pair of shoes a year, barefooted most of the year, you know. When I was about 10 years old, Dad was able to make a down payment on a little farm. Life got a little bit better then. Got a little bit better when Mother got the job at the shirt factory.
What did you dream about as a child?
I thought that I could be Eddie Arnold, the famous country singer. You've heard me sing, so you knew that God didn't have that in mind for me. Actually, country music and radio and television ended up being a very important part of my young life up through the 30s.
You studied very hard and got your first class radio license, and that wasn't easy to get on the first attempt, was it?
Well, I'll never forget, I got on a train one afternoon, rode all night to New Orleans, and took my radio license. That was about the time that I moved to Knoxville. And I just loved Knoxville, loved UT, and so I stayed here and got that engineering degree using that radio license.
How did you get into the car business?
I had an old Kaiser. Why did I buy a Kaiser? Because it's cheap. And I'm being mechanically inclined, I could keep it running, and it served me well for quite a while. And I decided, though, I wanted to buy something I could get parts for easier and maybe a little better car. I ran an ad and sold the old Kaiser immediately and bought me another car, and I loved the process. And so I started doing that. I talked it over where I bought my gas and put up a little sign. I had a car lot at a gas station and qualified as an official licensed dealer And that started Clayton Motors then on the Clinton Highway.
Which is still there today.
Which is a thriving business, the oldest Volvo dealership in the nation that stayed in one family all these years.
And you moved then over to the mobile home industry.
I'd been living in a manufactured home, mobile home, house trailer, if you will, we called them at the time. And I started buying and selling them. We decided to open a lot, flipped a coin. I took the mobile homes, Joe took the cars, and the rest is history. The dream of home ownership all during my career has been very much alive, and everyone couldn't afford site-built homes as they got more expensive. And our homes got better and better and larger and larger. That's a lot of the reasons that I've been so blessed in the manufactured home business.
And while you were building your business, your love for music played a part too, and your love for television. Tell me a little bit about your television show.
So I went to WIBK and bought a spot or two, and then I started a 5-minute radio program at 7 o'clock every morning on WIBK. And it worked quite well for a few months, and I'm getting a little confident or cocky, whatever, and I go over to the TV station and buy me 1-minute spots. And so I'd go once a week and find my latest shiny car, and often I take a salesperson with me. And I'd say, Johnny, this is a really nice car here, don't you think? Oh, yes, Jim. This is one of the finest cars I've ever driven. Come on out and see us. We got this one and a lot more at Clayton Motors on the Clinton Highway.
Tomorrow, Monday, Memorial Day, Clayton Motors, Clinton Highway.
The Cass Walker Entertainers had just finished their show before we arrived, and had left a guitar over in the corner, much like this. And we were waiting for that camera and hoping it's going to be fixed soon and that we could tape our commercial. And one of my sales people with me says, why don't you strum us a tune while we wait? So I picked up the guitar, much like this, and I strummed around a little bit. And while I was waiting for the camera to recue, then I just see Jim Clayton on the Clinton Highway. I did that a couple times. See Jim Clayton on the Clinton Highway. My salesperson says, I double dog dare you to do that on that second commercial. Red light on the camera came on then, and I see Jim Clayton on the Clinton Highway. Hi folks, this is Jim Clayton. Come on out here on Clinton Highway and see us. We've got some great deals on cars. My salesperson here. What's the special you're featuring today? Good cars, right? We talked about that just a second. And see Jim Clayton on the Clinton Highway. And the phones lit up, and it really worked. A few months later, I bought 30 Minutes, and for 16 years had a 30-minute prime time variety television show, and had some real stars on the show. Dudley was on the show 6 times.
What motivated you to write your first book, First a Dream?
When I got 50 years old or so, I started to recognize that I wasn't immortal, 30 or so we think we are, and that so many people have done so much for me. The people that worked at Clayton Homes and Clayton Motors and Clayton Bank, and that how can I ever thank them, and that their story needs to be told. I'll tell you the Warren Buffett story. Warren Buffett called me on my birthday, March the 2nd, 2003. Said, I read your book over the weekend. Enjoyed it very much. You did a good job on it. Please give me a call. I'd like to talk to you about your industry. Warren Buffett calling me? What about that? And in 30 days, it was announced all over the world that Warren Buffett buys Clayton. And I think the most bizarre, interesting part of the story is that there was never a meeting. No Clayton met a Buffett. Buffett never sent anyone to Knoxville or anywhere else. Buffett bought Clayton Homes and paid $1,700,000,000 for it. Like our great-grandfathers would have traded dogs or pigs, just a handshake.
When you go to bed at night, what do you look back to you as a successful day?
If I've been able to do my check off my to-do list, if the people I've been in contact with for the day seemed happy with the results of being in contact with me, then I'm real happy.
Jim, it has been my pleasure to share your Tennessee life and to share it with our viewers. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it. I think that's obvious. Thank you.
Later on Tennessee Life, building trumpets by hand in Cliff Blackburn's workshop. And next, meet Dudley, the steer who got a second chance.
This is a story of how compassion and medical expertise came together to give a hobbling Tennessee steer named Dudley new life with a new foot. It's not every day a farm animal gets a prosthesis. It's thanks to the Gentle Barn Animal Sanctuary in California that was willing to save Dudley, and a first-of-its-kind surgery at the UT Veterinary Medical Center.
He's such an amazing guy. He really is. He has such an incredibly sweet, gentle disposition. This woman called us and said that there's a cow in Tennessee that had lost his foot, and he was hobbling along a pasture for 10 months. He was in pain and wanted to know if we could help. And it's this incredible story. This cattle rancher who has spent many, many years going and getting cows from the auction, young cows, bringing them home, fattening them up, and then selling them to slaughter for a profit. All of a sudden he meets this little hobbling calf. He decided instead of sending him back to slaughter, but to try to help his foot. And so this woman heard about him and reached out to us in California and said, hey, would you be able to help? The reason that the Gentle Barn all the way from California came all the way to Tennessee to save this cow is because I think we were the only ones that were willing to do it. We found the University of Tennessee right near where the cow was, and many prosthetic companies rearing to go to make him a prosthetic.
When I first examined Dudley, he was in a very late stage of his problem, and so at some point in his young life, he had gotten something around his foot, strangulating band or something like that, that caused him to slough his foot. And so he didn't have a walking surface. And so when he tried to bear weight on what part of his leg was left, it was extremely painful. And so over time, as he was growing and getting heavier, the pain was causing muscle mass to be lost and fat. And he was very debilitated. He was having a lot of difficulty getting up and walking around. And so the weight was causing damage to the other legs, and he was getting to a point to where he would need to be euthanized very soon if something wasn't done. Fortunately, I have a fair amount of experience with amputations and prosthetics in farm animals, and so we were able to offer him some help. The main thing that I look at when we get animals in this condition is we look at the owners, because it takes a tremendous amount of dedication to be able to deal with an animal that has an amputation, especially if you're going to put a prosthetic leg on them. So Ellie and Jay, they have the facilities and the people around them that I very much believe that they can take care of this animal for the rest of his life and have him have a very high quality of life. So I was very comfortable that they were the right client to do this procedure for. And based on Dudley's personality, I was very comfortable that he was the right patient to have the procedure done. He's got the most incredible personality I've ever seen in a bovine. And so he is very attached to people in a very gentle way.
I just can't even believe we're even having this discussion. I mean, several years ago, it would have been unheard of to talk about a prosthetic with a cow. And so I think this is an incredible opportunity that we're even doing this today, that we are giving a cow a prosthetic foot.
The leg, in order for a prosthesis to fit on it, needs to be conformed in such a way so that it can be easily fitted but securely fitted, so when they walk on it, it's not unstable. And so the surgery itself was relatively straightforward. That's the easiest part of the whole procedure. The fitting of the prosthesis and the adjustment of the prosthesis is really the difficult part. You're working up for that one day, and when you get to that day, you're either going to succeed or you're going to fail, and you're going to have to start again. And fortunately, on that day, it was a huge success. We were able to get the prosthesis on his leg, and he very quickly started bearing weight on it. And then as we've adapted and sculpted the prosthesis over time, he's using the leg more and more and more. And recently we actually had him walking in an underwater treadmill, and wasn't hesitant to do it. It's not hesitant to use the leg. And so during that time also, we've been able to rehabilitate his body, because his muscles were so atrophied and his strength was so depleted from his body that gave us a month to do physical rehabilitation with him and build his muscles back up and give him the best chance to be able to succeed with the prosthesis. We've done 12 to 15 of these amputation prostheses in animals ranging from llamas and alpacas to a kangaroo, all the way up to Dudley. Dudley is the only steer that we've done, and so he's going to end up being the largest animal that we've put a prosthesis on the farm animal arena.
And the best part of this story is that once Dudley is healed, he will spend the rest of his life at the Gentle Barn, giving hope and inspiration to war veterans, seniors, and children born with physical differences. So it really is a full-blown circle. This little calf lost a foot, we saved his life and got him a prosthetic foot, and then he will spend the rest of his life giving encouragement to children and adults going through the same thing.
He's a good example of what the veterinary profession and the medical profession have been pushing in recent years, which is a concept called One Health. That although we're veterinarians that work on animals and physicians or doctors that work on people, the principles are the same, and so the lines become more blurred in cases like this. So we have special challenges, body weight, walking function and whatnot. We have special challenges that need to be overcome, but the veterinary profession and the human profession share so many common bonds for solving these types of problems. And these types of cases help us advance, which then helps the entire profession move forward.
We've been blown away since we've been here. UT has been gentle and kind and respectful to Dudley, treated him as the same worthy patient as any of their other patients, whether dog, cat, horse, or cow. I have to say, after being in Tennessee, feeling the warmth here and seeing the facilities at University of Tennessee, oh my God, we've got to have a Gentle Barn here in Tennessee. If not for anything else, just to have a Gentle Barn next to this facility. It's state of the art. We are extremely impressed.
We'll remember Dudley forever. He's indelibly imprinted on our minds, largely because of his personality. He's such a tremendous animal. But what we learn here today, we carry forward to tomorrow. And so, he's a case we'll never forget.
Musicians from around the world are calling on a trumpet maker in Decatur, Tennessee to make their next instrument. Cliff Blackburn has spent several decades handcrafting trumpets, drawing from his own experience playing the instrument. We caught up with him and his staff as they create Blackburn trumpets.
The process of making a trumpet is very demanding, but it's also very interesting. There's all kinds of skills that are involved. We're everything from a blacksmith to a jeweler. I'm Cliff Blackburn. I'm the owner of Blackburn Trumpets, and we make trumpets for players around the world. We're working on a horn right now for a principal trumpet player in an orchestra in Brazil. It's always exciting to find that, you get an email and somebody from who knows where is interested in getting one of our horns. New Zealand, Australia, Japan, several in China, of course, Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga. It's just, whether it's local or around the world, it's the same process. The process for bell making is hundreds, if not thousands of years old. We've tried to keep some of the traditional ways of making bells alive. And it's slower, it's much more labor intensive than some of the modern techniques that are being used. But we feel like it produces a better product. The hand hammering of the bell, we feel, has a big influence on the way it ends up and the way it plays. Assembling the valve section, that's just something that every manufacturer does, and it's just kind of interesting. Every part of the trumpet, if you change any of it, it makes a difference in the way the horn plays. I always liked music, and I was attracted more actually to symphonic music with some of the loud big things, the Mahler and some of the Stravinsky pieces and things. Just as a kid, I can remember laying down on the floor in front of the hi-fi and listening to the Rite of Spring and just thinking, this is great, you know. Both of my parents were musicians. My father played violin and my mother played piano. And so I was surrounded by music my entire life. And they had both gone to music school. And so they had my dad had an old trumpet. And I started playing around on that. And when it came time to sign up for an instrument in the band, I knew I already had a trumpet. And so that's what I signed up for. I started playing trumpet in the 4th grade. I joined the band and found out I had an ability with playing the trumpet. Played in the high school band. We had a lot of fun doing that. Had some great band directors, and went on to major in music education at Tennessee Tech, and ended up going to the University of Louisville and getting a master's degree in performance. While I was working on the degree, I took an elective course, a little 1-hour elective in instrument repair. And I found out I was good at it. And the teacher kind of took me under his wing and coached me a little extra. And by the time I finished the degree, I was doing instrument repairs for 5 music stores in the Louisville, Kentucky area. Soon after I got the degree, a job with the Louisville Orchestra, one of the trumpet spots, opened up. And I was lucky enough to win that audition. And the orchestra ended up being my proving ground for the development of our trumpets. We started out as Blackburn's Music Services. We would fix your sousaphone, or we'd repad your piccolo, or we would play trumpet for your wedding. It was an all-inclusive trumpet playing repair business kind of thing. So when we moved here to Tennessee in 1987, we changed the name to Blackburn Trumpets. Name got out there a little bit more, and people started sending me trumpets. Being a trumpet player, I naturally gravitated toward that. So I would do custom work on trumpets and replace a lead pipe or do some very special things to trumpets for players. And pretty soon I was making the whole thing. We make the horn for the player, not the player for the horn. That's kind of our philosophy on the thing, is to make it easier for the players to do what they want to do.
My teacher in graduate school steered me towards playing Blackburn trumpets. I said, yeah, but I can't afford a new trumpet. And he said, no, go. So he pushed me, and I met the Blackburns, and I played the instruments, and that's when I fell in love. The first thing that you notice right off the bat is just they feel better, they're easier to play. We can tailor that to the individual person. So if you're somebody who likes more resistance, we can make that happen. If you're somebody that likes less resistance, we can make that happen. So that's the first thing you notice. And then the sound is fantastic. And a lot of that is the bell alloy that we use, and we are still the only company that uses the ambrons for the bells. And then the next thing, the thing that really, really gets you, is just how well in tune they play with themselves. Because there's no instrument that's perfect, that plays perfectly in tune with itself from top to bottom, but these are the best I had ever played. So with all those factors, I had to have one. And that meant I had to come here and make my own, basically. My area of the production, I do all the lead pipes and tuning slides for the aftermarket production, so we make pipes and slides for many different brands of trumpets as well as our own. And for the Blackburn trumpets, I basically build the body. We make instruments that are terrific for anybody, whether you're a junior high student or a professional player. And we've done instruments for both.
Doc Severinsen had us make a horn for him at one time. The entire trumpet section of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra were playing our trumpets at one time. Back in the 90s, the United States Air Force Band in Washington, D.C. was playing all Blackburn trumpets. Most of our players are orchestra players, though, and they're not necessarily household names. I think I can safely say that just about every major orchestra in the world has something that we've made, whether it's a lead pipe for a piccolo trumpet or a complete trumpet, or whether the entire section is playing Blackburn trumpets. They're out there, but pretty much they've all got something that we've done. We've stayed small intentionally so we could give personal attention to those players.
We hope you have enjoyed the stories we brought you on this edition of Tennessee Life. I'm Vicki Lawson. Hope to see you next time.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville, nexttonewknox.com, and by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations, knoxvilleflowerpot.com.